cooperation and understanding. Unfortunately, the cameras are blocking us. If possible, perhaps we request that once you set your cameras, if you can find a seat so you don't block those who are seated behind, because this briefing is not just to members of the press, it's for everyone. So we would like to see everyone. So if you could just set your cameras and maybe grab a seat so you don't block those who are behind. So just a bit of introduction on how we would run this press briefing. Quite an unconventional one. But by way of introduction, today, the 8th of November 2025, the Anambra Election Observation Hub that comprise of the following organizations: Yaga Africa, the Kuka Center, the International Press Center, the Center for Media and Society, CIMESO, the Nigerian Women Trust Fund, Elect Her, TAF Africa, supported by the European Union under the Support to Democratic Governance project, jointly deployed 711 citizens observers across the 21 local governments of the state. Now, each of these organizations leads on a specific thematic pillar, and this includes election integrity, results verification, election security, disability inclusion, gender participation, peace building, misinformation tracking, and media safety. These are the thematic pillars that are covered by the 7 organizations involved in the Election Observation Hub for Anambra. In terms of the methodology, there's an assortment of methodology employed by the hub, and they're triangulated in nature. First, we're combining both systematic, statistical, and technology-driven tools to provide a comprehensive assessment of the elections around the thematic pillars that have been outlined. So over the course of this election, the hub will issue 2 statements, and afterwards we would release thematic reports based on findings from each organization's area of focus. So this briefing, it's a preliminary assessment of the opening of polling units, the deployment of election materials and personnel, accreditation and voting, as well as inclusivity and accessibility. Additional information and updates will be provided subsequently. So this is our general assessment before each partner will speak to the thematic issue that they covered in this election. As a hub, the Anambra election has so far been conducted in a generally peaceful and secure environment. Election officials and security personnel in polling units where we observed collectively displayed professionalism and adequate knowledge of electoral procedures. While electoral materials were deployed as scheduled in most polling units, some logistical challenges such as delays in the arrival of materials and election personnel were recorded. This led to late commencement of polls in some polling units. Nevertheless, voters conducted themselves in a peaceful and orderly manner, reflecting a commendable level of political maturity and commitment to democratic principles. While it is too premature to provide exact turnout rates, our preliminary observation from the partners indicate low voter turnout across local government areas and several local government areas. And as noted in all the pre-election statements that each partner has issued, the apathy witnessed in the build-up to the election appears to have manifested in low turnout on election day. So to begin the thematic briefing, Yiga Africa will speak to the process, and then our colleagues will speak to the other thematic issues. On the process regarding arrival of officials and commencement of polls, and to be specific, Yiga Africa deployed the PVT to a random sample of 250 polling units. And based on reports from those sample polling units, because they are representative of the entire state, we observed that election officials arrived at 49% of polling units by 7:30. Based on our sample, in 49% of polling units, election officials had arrived at 7:30. This represents an improvement from the 28% recorded in 2017 and the 17% recorded in 2021. Because in 2021, by 7:30, only 17% of polling units had recorded early arrival of INEC officials. But in this election, in 49% of polling stations, INEC officials arrived at 7:30. On the deployment of election materials and personnel, we assess the deployment of election materials like BVAS, voter register, the voting cubicle, the indelible ink, and all the other materials. And we can say that all of these materials were found in 86% of the polling units. When you look at the issues relating to BVAS, we observed that in 5% of polling units, 2 BVAS machines were deployed across the polling units. However, in 3% of polling units, the BVAS accreditation count was not shown to voters to confirm that there was zero accreditation before the start of accreditation. On accreditation and voting commenced in 85% of polling units by 9:30 a.m. If you look at the geographical distribution based on our sample, it indicates that accreditation had commenced in 87% of polling units in Anambra Central, 82% in Anambra North, 84% in Anambra South Senatorial District. So by 9:30, 1 hour after the official commencement, in 85% of polling units, accreditation and voting had commenced. There are critical incidents that we have outlined. For instance, there are cases where there was no result sheets, like the Form EC8A. This was recorded in Amudimogo polling unit 1 in Amanu Ward in Ihala local governments. We also observe incidents of vote buying, and this vote buying occurred in places like Orumba South, where we observed polling units, vote buying. One of the incidents we also recorded is this new sophisticated way of buying votes, where we had political mercenaries taking records of those who voted. In some places, they were also buying votes with POS machines. On the issue related to inconsistent application of election day procedure, we did observe some misapplication of the guidelines regarding what happens when BVAS malfunctions. In some cases, there was an instant case where the BVAS, even though the voter's name was on the voter's register, but the BVAS failed to accredit the voter was asked to step aside without taking his facial identification. So from a Yaga Africa standpoint, with respect to issues related to the process, these are our preliminary observations around the commencement, the availability of materials, as well as critical incidents. So to move to the next, perhaps thematic issue, permit me to invite TAF Africa that observed the accessibility regarding persons with disability to also share some of the preliminary findings in today's elections. Check.
Okay. Thank you, Samson. Good afternoon. Okay, we're good to go? Yeah. Thank you, Samson, and thank you, colleagues, members of the Diplomatic Corps, ladies and gentlemen. There is no doubt that we're still a little bit behind schedule in terms of inclusivity. We still have what constitutes a perennial problem, a situation where we've done all we can to ensure inclusivity, only for us to get to the field and we begin to see the challenges. And there are challenges that I will not blame squarely on INEC. The challenges of the community participating effectively, so there's challenges of awareness and participation. There are also challenges of the ad hoc staff and staff of INEC not knowing what to do when they're in the field. So you find a situation where so much has been done, so much has been said, but in practical terms, there are gaps. So the number of polling units that we went to, which is a heartwarming development that were guided by data. We know that in a particular polling unit 10 of one of the primary schools that we went to, there was a presence of persons with just one person, and we were happy that INEC deployed one magnifying glasses, which is a good thing. However, we still have a number of issues. And I'm not going to dwell on the problem as much as I will dwell on the solution, something that can be done even before the close of this poll. At South Africa, we're looking at 5 simple recommendations that INEC can implement before the close of poll. I think we're still having problems with the data validation. There's a need for INEC, if they can, through their data department, to begin to look at the data that have been released and ensure if there's some element, critical element of that we need to correct and re-strategize to ensure that we have accurate and verifiable data. The second is we notice that most ad hoc staff and staff of INEC, despite the investment in training, are still struggling to understand what to do in the field. So going forward, my colleagues has been in the field guiding some of them, directing some of them on what to do. We've also seen a situation where some of them have the inclusive electoral resources, magnifying glasses, Braille ballot guide, tucked in their Ghana Must Go. And those materials are not being used. The third aspect is to enhance consistent deployment of this assistive material. There are places where data guides them to deploy that it wasn't deployed. So there's a need to continue to ensure that there is compliance in terms of deployment. I want to also establish the fact that TAF Africa, with some of our colleagues, have been monitoring on the spot deployment, on the spot assessment of priority voting, and ensure that persons blind, the deaf, have assistance, some sort of assistance. Some of them we deployed to ensure that they participate, otherwise they will be disenfranchised. So generally speaking, inclusivity of this particular election have not, I wouldn't say that we've met 50% threshold. So there's a whole lot to be done, and it's an opportunity for the INEC chairman. Let me commend the INEC in general as an institution, but let me commend the INEC chairman. We've been in touch. We've had 3 meaningful conversations during this election that he personally called, personally sent pictures where he saw persons, where they escalated to him, persons with disability voting, and his assurance that he's interested in inclusivity. That is a good development for the entire community of persons with disability. And I want to finally thank all my colleagues seated. Every one of them have their eyes on the inclusive process of this particular election. Let me finally call on persons with disability who have not voted. You still have the opportunity to go out there and cast your vote. If you don't vote, the process will not be inclusive. If you don't vote, you have no right to complain what kind of leaders that will lead you. Election cannot be credible, cannot be free, cannot be fair if it's not inclusive. It's absolute rape on democracy where inclusivity is not part of the process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On election security, the Kuka Center.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this press statement. So, following the signing of the Peace Accord on Monday, the 3rd of November, the Secretariat of the National Peace Committee, the Kuka Center, is focused on observing security risks and electoral offenses. Some of the things that we noticed today was that there was security gaps in polling units. Some polling units operated without any visible security presence. I give you an example. PU 14 in Nkwele Ezunaka, Oyi local government. And these gaps increase the risk of intimidation, interference with voting, and disruption during collation. So I'd like to recommend that security visibility must be sustained through accreditation, voting, counting, and collation. Secondly, we noticed localized delays in high-risk LGAs. Delays in INEC and security arrival were particularly noted in Ihiala, Ogbaru, and Enewi North. These local government areas we had previously identified as high risk due to historical patterns of cult-related activity, politically motivated intimidation, and fragile security arrangements. So we are calling on the security agencies, and INEC in particular, that high-risk LGAs require reinforced monitoring. Thirdly, vote buying and inducement. Vote buying is a critical part of our electoral offenses tracking system that we have at the Election Security Hub. So it's very important for us. We noticed that there were isolated but notable incidents of vote trading. We have the Amasia Ward, PU001 in Oka North. We also noticed trends of vote buying in Newi South and Agwata. where party agents distributed cash to voters. So this highlights a critical case of vote buying, and vote buying has remained a key method of influencing results where physical intimidation has become limited. Finally, I'd like to talk about low-level intimidation risk. We noticed this in urban centers, where party agents and local youth groups were seen attempting to monitor and influence voter choices, particularly in areas with strong party rivalries, like Newi South and Aguata. While we do not have a record of violent confrontations, there is a need for continued security visibility. So INEC and ISS must deter and promptly address vote buying and low-level intimidation. Thank you very much.
And to gender representative.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. Are you ready for me? Okay. Welcome again, everyone. Under the Joint Gender Situation Room, comprised of Electa and the Nigerian Women Trust Fund, we are assessing the process, looking at how women are participating as voters, as observers, and as officials. According to data submitted by our observers deployed across 160 polling units as at 11 a.m., 61.75% of the polling units reported female INEC officials presiding over voting, while 47.5% of them reported the presence of female security personnel at the poll as well. In terms of critical incident reporting, our observers documented several critical incidents across Oka South, Oyi, Ogbaru local government areas, Njikoka local government area as well, highlighting logistical lapses and procedural irregularities that are affecting voter confidence and participation. In Oka South, delays in the arrival of INEC officials were reported at Kwata Junction, polling unit 024, where voters had waited for over 1 hour before the arrival of electoral officials. Observers also recorded the absence of security personnel at the time of the reporting at same polling units. While the atmosphere remained tense but non-violent as of 9:48 a.m., similarly, Eke Aqua Market, polling unit 023, observers reported that only 4 of 211 registered voters had been accredited by 10 a.m. And some believe that largely due to the fact that a high number of the registered voters are market women who do not reside in close proximity to the market. This development may have disproportionately affected female traders and contributed to low turnout observed. In Ijikoka local government, reports of massive vote buying with party agents assisting voters, leading to arguments, and a few of the women have withdrawn due to fear of safety. In Oyi local government, Nkwele, Izunaka ward, polling unit 13, observers reported open vote buying by party agents, raising concerns about electoral integrity. In Ibikwe, polling unit 032, Ogbaru local government area, INEC officials arrived at 10:49 a.m. without any security presence as well. In addition to these, 4 other observers have also reported attempted voter influence across Anambra East and Onisha North local government. Of these 3 polling units, reports of vote buying targeting youths. One polling unit reported vote buying targeting security personnel as well, and 3 polling units reported incidents of harassment and intimidation.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Media on behalf of National Press Center and Center for Media and Society. We deployed journalist observers in all the 21 local governments, 42. And the preliminary report from them showed that in the context of incident, there were no infraction of rights of journalists to cover the governorship election. Although there was an instance where a journalist from Eu-Sdgn FM, that's a campus radio, faced mild obstruction while filming voter interviews, but was subsequently allowed to continue after clarification with security agents. That was in the context of that. But beyond journalists and incidents, because journalist observers, we also other trends. In the area of disinformation, we countered a false information that assault by a police who actually fired at area and was later those on ground. He had probably taken the bottle too many, but the state police said he was overzealous. That was the report that we got in. Before today, we had also corrected false information regarding stay at home because of the public holiday that was declared on Friday. And we said that there was no stay at home and people were free to come out to cast their votes. We observed under critical incidents that there were no violence and that security agents in the areas observed by the journalists maintained calm at the polling stations. The journalist observers also helped to check on inclusivity and accessibility. The observation is that in a number of places, the elderly citizens, pregnant women, and nursing mothers were given priority voting. Although in Ogbaru, Anambra East, and Idemili North, they reported challenges for voters with physical disabilities, such as steep access paths and inadequate sitting areas near the voting centers. For the accurate voting, the observation aligns with our other partners in terms of functionality, but some minor incidents and early arrival polling agents, polling officials. So, overall, there were 38 reports which confirmed the smooth accreditation, and 29 of the journalist observers rated the voting process as easy, but there were 33 minor irregularities, which were mostly procedural in terms of misplacement of queues of voters arriving without PVCs. The observation on deployment of election materials was also similar from the journalist observers. And then finally, in the area of arrival of INEC officials and commencement of polls, it was a mixed bag. In some, voting and accreditation started at 8:30, but in others, there were delay before the commencement. So in 38 incidents, it was reported that there were uninterrupted process, but there were cited minor irregularities. Thank you very much. 。  . 。  . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 。 . 。 。 . 。 。 。 。 . 。 。 。 . 。 。 . 。 . 。
。 . 。 . 。 。 . 。 . 。 . 。 .
。
Thank you.
Effective partners of the hub and share findings from the thematic areas of focus for the observation. At this point, we would like to take any questions from members of the press based on the preliminary assessment that we have provided this afternoon. Any questions from the press? There is none. Since Mr. Akinbolu highlighted this critical incident, Larry, sorry, let me provide a clarification. Yes, we did receive a critical incident at the local government, the INEC local government office in Ihal, where it was alleged that the core members that were assigned to some of the polling units were being substituted and chaos occurred and 2 people were injured. We have verified that incident, and what really transpired there was that the police did tear gas some of those who were present at the local governments because there was a disagreement at the local government. So there was a case where they were tear gassed in Ihal local government office, and we've verified this particular incident. Although it is reported that a core member was involved in this particular case where he did sustain some assault, and we want to use this opportunity to condemn, attempts, to intimidate or assault polling officials, especially core members. No matter the provocation, core members who are delivering service to the country should not be treated the way that we have received the report that this particular core member was treated in Ihal local government. Before we close, permit me to perhaps extend our deepest appreciation to our partners, the European Union delegation to Nigeria, that has provided support for the Anambra Election Observation Hall, all the partners who are here under the support for Democratic Governance Project. But traditionally, you would see the board members of these organizations address you. But today, because of this new collaborative approach that the partners have adopted, there's a slight shift in the seating arrangement. And so we have our board members, but let me begin by introducing and perhaps also appreciating Haji Amina Zakari, who is the vice chair of the board of TAF Africa, a former national commissioner of INEC. Thank you so much. I see you in the room. I see Professor who is a board member of YAGA Africa in the room. We see our other partners, sure, for Elect Her and Nigerian Women Trust Fund. There are several fellows in the room. We have several experts in the room. Thank you very much. We recognize you. These folks are blocking us, so we can't see you. But then we have a good friend of Nigeria, the Deputy Ambassador of the European Union to Nigeria, our friend and brother, the one who loves Nigeria with so much passion, Zimos. Thank you very much. We see you also the program manager for D&G, Ruben Alba, who is seated behind. Thank you so much. And the one who we call the leader of the Boys and Men, the program manager for Democracy and Governance, Laudu Olawumi. Thank you very much. Dr. Saron is also here. Thank you very much. So thank you very much. This brings this to the end of this press briefing. The next time you will hear from us will be in a few hours or the day ahead. We're still observing this process, so please keep tabs with us. But this cannot be made possible without our media partners who have been amplifying all the issues that we've put before the public. So thank you very much to all our media partners, including channels who have beamed this live, including News Central, all of you. We are very, very grateful. Thank you. And please, we're going back to the field, and those who are in the data center, we continue to pursue the data until this process is brought to a close. Thank you very much.